Hey everybody, Chris Olka here with another T&E video. This is T&E number 13 for the MAW valve. So before we get started, I just want to apologize for taking so long between videos. Life gets in the way, the orchestra schedule's busy, and I teach quite a lot, as well as trying to have a life with my family and my cats. So I apologize. Hopefully this one will turn out to be a little bit shorter form. I'm going to start trying to do shorter form videos just so they're more concise, they give you more information in less time. So let's jump in. A few months ago, I took a few of my tubas to Martin Wilk in his Indiana workshop for repair and some maintenance. And after he had completed the work and called me, my wife and I jumped in the car and drove back out to pick up the instruments. And while I was there, Martin offered to let me test a set of 4 of his MAW valves, one of his genius creations, for tuba. And he makes them for all piston valve instruments, I believe. But I have 2 836 Eastman C tubas, and he had fit a set of 4 valves for me for my 836 and offered to let me take them and test them just to get my thoughts and feedback on them. Now, I've heard about these a lot in the past, but I've never really had any personal experience other than playing other people's personal instruments that had them installed. So I didn't have the ability to have an A/B comparison with the same instrument. So I felt like this would be a really cool opportunity to try one of my tubas with those valves installed and with the factory valves installed, and hopefully provide some interesting and helpful feedback for you guys to watch. I took them home and pulled them out of the casings. He's got them in these really cool plastic sheaths. And immediately I was impressed at the high quality of fit and finish and just oozes craftsmanship. I think these are contract produced for Martin, someplace in Europe. I'm going to guess Meinl. It doesn't really say on the valve. It's not marked with an indicator. There's a patent number on them, but these things, I mean, they are beautifully manufactured valves. And one thing that they have that I really like is they have the valve guide on the side of the piston body rather than as a top kind of washer hybrid that you have to lock down with the valve stem. They look fantastic, and if you notice here, you've got a couple of the traditional knuckle ports, the holes that go through the valves themselves, but then this is where the magic lives. It's a port that's only like a 180-degree port. There's not anything on the side. And it looks for all the world like a rotary valve. And I think actually if you look at his website, he describes it as you get the benefit of the rotary valve and the benefits of the piston combined into one, which is a really cool idea. So I oiled them, I put them in my tuba, and I played them exclusively for a week just to get used to them. And here's my thoughts. The stated claims that he makes on his website I find are all true. Response is faster, it's more immediate. I noticed that the resistance on the tuba was changed. It was more open blowing. I'll talk about that more in a second. But the slots were more pronounced without being stiff. The instrument in legato playing was very, very easy and smooth. If I wanted portamento or very gooey, almost glissando-like slurs, that was not a problem. It was actually easier than with the stock piston valves. The low register, as you started stacking up resistance and going into longer and longer valve combinations, that's where it really started to shine. The low register was markedly more responsive and easier to get into and out of than the regular valves. And make no mistake, I think the low register on the 836 model is great. I have had no complaints about it at all. These make it even better. They really just open the door into the low register. The sound was a little bit bigger. You know, you're not really using you're not getting the benefits of the valves on the open tuba, because you don't have any valves depressed, but when you start getting into valve combinations, the timbral and color shift that you get from the open tuba to the longer valve combinations becomes less apparent. In other words, the notes that are played with the valve combination sound more similar to the sound that you get on the tuba when you're not pushing any valves. So again, the evenness of response in color and timbre was immediately noticeable. And like I said, soft playing was immediately easier, noticeably so. So I would say generally all of his claims as far as the benefits are all there. Are there any downsides? And I would say generally no, with one potential perceived downside, which is if you're really used to your tuba, I'm just going to say tuba because I know he makes them for the other instruments, but if you're really dialed in on your tuba with the stock valves and your mouthpiece set up, and you just get a chance to try these valves for 5 or 10 minutes, you might not like them. You might not like them because the instrument is more open. And if you're used to a certain predictable stuffiness, let's say, that might turn you off at first. And it didn't turn me off, but it was something that I immediately was aware of, especially in the low register. And I think that if you were to switch to these valves on your personal instrument, what you should do is then also look for a slightly tighter playing mouthpiece setup, which I think could actually end up yielding better results long term. I think you might have a more efficient combination there, because we generally tend to set up our playing, our embouchure, and our mouthpiece selection based on what we get from the feedback from the tuba while we're playing. Because these valves change that feedback, and now it's not predictable in the same way that you had been used to it previously, it's going to seem like you're falling in a little bit, I think. So if you then find a smaller mouthpiece combination where you're moving the resistance from the body of the tuba back closer to the initial beginning of the airstream at your embouchure, you actually, I think you can find that resistance and place it back, but at a healthier place. Now, if your complaint about the tuba when you're playing it with your current setup is that it's stuffy, well, these are the cure. I think that's going to make it so much more noticeably open that if, short of changing a lead pipe, I don't think you're going to find a more efficient way to change that perception of stuffiness. Final question before I wrap it up. People are going to ask me, am I going to switch to the MAW valves on my tubas? And the answer is no, with a qualifier. If I was in a position where I was just only playing one tuba on a regular basis, like I was taking it from my basement to the hall, throwing it in a car, I was freelancing, or not traveling with tubas, and I just had that one instrument to play, then the MAW valves I think would be a very seriously considered option for me. However, there's a few things that make that not practical for me. First of all, I would need at a minimum 2 sets of valves, one for the tuba in my basement that I practice on at home and one for the hall. Okay, not a big deal. They're only like $1,250 US for a set of 4 and worth every penny if you like them. But I travel around the world and I'm constantly testing various models, either production models or prototype instruments for Eastman. And if I fly to Europe and they have an instrument for me to play a recital on or give a master class or do an appearance on, it's going to have the factory valves in it, and they're quite a bit different. And I travel with increasing regularity, so that's a little bit of a deal breaker for me, only because I'm playing in any given year over the last few years 10, 15, 20, 30 different Eastman 836s around the globe. And I feel like it's part of my responsibility as an Eastman artist to be able to compare apples to apples and give feedback to the company and to customers when I'm asked about it. So if I got used to the MAW valves, it wouldn't be practical for me to have a set of them to travel with me, because there's enough variation from tuba to tuba to tuba that they may not drop in. So I hope that answers your question. It's certainly not because I have any qualms about what they offer. If you are interested in trying or traveling to Martin's shop, which I would say that's the way to do it. If you can get yourself to Indiana to his shop, do it that way. But you can contact him, and his website is called mawvalve.com, MAWVALVE.com. He's got all these cool pictures, lots of helpful information and testimonials. So I think that wraps it up. Thank you again to Martin Wilk for allowing me to test these, and for his fantastic craftsmanship and repair skills on my tubas. I hope you guys like this slightly shorter format, hopefully many more to come. This is T&E number 13 for the MAW valve. I hope you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.